Hello friends, this is Susan with My Sister's House DIY. Tonight we're going to be making a give thanks door hanger that you are going to love. I'm going to start by staining the back side of my turkey feathers with my brown paint. I can give you a list of all the colors that I'm using in the description of this live, so stay tuned for that. I'm applying the paint with a baby wipe. Just put your paint on your baby wipe. Kind of smooth it all over your wood like you are staining, and voila, it is as simple as can be. You're going to stain the whole back side of the turkey with this color. It's kind of a nice gingerbread color. Just smooth it on. You can add more or try to wipe it off if you feel like it's too dark. Here's the front of our turkey, and I'm going to use the same exact technique using the baby wipe. I just sort of smear it around and just start spreading it all over the surface till it's covered. If you happen to get paint in the grooves, don't worry about it on this part because we are going to be doing layers on top of it. This is the front of our turkey feathers, and I'm going to be using 4 different colors to paint the turkey feathers in the same way with the baby wipes. I'm also going to use a paintbrush a little bit just between the feathers to just make sure that there's a sharp difference between one feather to another and the colors don't blend together. I started out using this. It's kind of a pretty blue-green color. It was a little bit lighter than I wanted, so I did add some more paint to my baby wipe. If you start seeing that the paint gets caught in the etching that is on the wood, take something sharp like a needle or a stylus or something that you can poke in those little holes and just kind of trace them, and it will clean out the lines so you have a nice crisp line there. So just continuing along, you're going to keep painting the bottom half in that pretty blue-green. See right here, you can see where I'm using my paintbrush to get that line nice and clean there. If I just need a little paint, sometimes I just work on the lid of my paint jar. No need to open up and pour it all out, right? You're just going to repeat that on the other side with the same color. Next, we're going to do the next layer of feathers in this pretty goldish yellow color that I had using the same technique. I also painted the turkey's feet and the little heart, which becomes his beak later on. Next comes our orange layer of feathers. So far so good. And now I'm going to finish up that center feather with some red. I ended up using 2 coats of this. I thought it looked a little bit pink after I put on the first coat, and that sometimes happens with red paint. So after it dried, I did go in with a second coat. I also painted the little gobbler. I don't know what that thing's called. What is that? The little gobbler next to the turkey's beak. I did that in red also. If you can tell me what that's called, let me know. Is it a wattle? I think it's a wattle. So you can see after I did that second coat of red, it did look much better. The red was definitely red and not pink. But you can still see the wood grain coming through, which is a look that I like. Next, we're going to do the banner that says Give Thanks. And I'm using a pretty dark green color. Again, I'll put all the colors that I used in the description of this event or in the comments. Depends on where you're watching it from. Be sure you follow me on Facebook and YouTube. So I did the baby wipe technique here again. I wanted it to be a bit deep, so I did add enough so that it looked like dark green and not light green. So at this point I did notice that I had some of the etching that was filled with paint, and I went around with this little pokey tool. It's actually something that I use with my Cricut machine, and you can get them at Dollar Tree. Next, we have some of our small bits and pieces to paint. So I did lay a piece of painter's tape. I just kind of curled the ends under so it would stick to some cardboard. I put the little gobble tab, as well as the give thanks letters. I did forget to paint one of them, of course. I found that later, and I did finish painting all the letters. So I didn't use the baby wipes on these because they're so darn tiny. And I'm going to show you how I used a sponge dipped in paint. So you might see me do this technique a lot, especially on things that are tiny. It keeps the paint from bleeding over the edges if you get it too heavy, and it covers nicely. So you just dip a little makeup sponge or a painting sponge in some paint, tap off most of it like you'd be stenciling, and pat the paint on. Try not to rub it, just pat it on there. Sometimes I need to use 2 coats. This time it covered really nicely with just one though. For the Gobble Gobble tag, I used an antique white color in the same exact technique. Again, if you find that your paint was a little bit thicker than you wanted it, and some of your letters or your etch marks get filled with paint, just go in with that little tool or a pen, not a pen, but a pin, and clean out those lines. Keep it nice and neat. To get kind of a vintage look, I went all around the edges with some distress ink. My favorite is Tim Holtz Vintage Photo. I use this for just about everything. The only other colors I really use is black and occasionally white. But I do like this brown color. It's not too harsh, and it's not really too dark either. Just kind of go along the edges of all of your pieces with a light touch, and if you feel like you want it to be darker, then go for it. It just creates a nice vintage look. So you can see here it's getting lots of dimension. Next, I'm going to do some spatter painting. I've got a paintbrush here which is about 1/2 inch wide, and I dipped it in some paint, and I'm tapping my paintbrush with a heavier brush and just kind of spattering that paint on. Be sure to practice this. I did spatter on my hands, so you might want to wear some gloves, but definitely cover your table and wear an apron or something that you don't mind getting a little bit of spatter on. So I did go in and use a dark brown on this project. If you like it heavy, you can definitely go to town doing your spattering. If you like it lighter, just go easy or don't do it at all. It's all up to you. It's your project. So after the brown, I did go in with some bright white and added that too. I just like that kind of vintage handcrafted look that you get with the spatter paint. So here comes the white. It's hard to see in my video, but when you see it up close and personal, you definitely can see it. Our turkey is looking a little bit plain here, so we are going to rosy up his cheeks with some blush that I got at the Dollar Tree and a Q-tip. Just kind of rub your Q-tip in your blush and go to town. I'm going to add some dots to highlight his cheeks and some other of the pieces that we've already painted. So I put a little bit of paint in a paint tray here, and I have a stylus that I'm just dipping it into the paint and doing 3 little dots on his cheeks. 1, 2, 3, dipping it into the paint each time. He's already starting to develop a little personality. Next, I'm going to add some dot work to the Give Thanks banner. You'll see that I put 3 dots on one side and then 3 dots on the other. Next, I'm going to add some dot work to the feet, just a couple on each of the big toes, and then you're going to see me doing dots all around the feathers too. Of course, you have to do the beak as well. The next thing I did was I took a piece of black and white gingham ribbon and I tied it around his neck. I did tie it in the back, and I'm not going to worry about the bump because we're going to put a little bit of a bumper behind the body of the turkey. So tie that on nice and tight like so and trim off your ends. Next, I'm going to use my little bow maker to make a small black and white gingham bow. If you don't have a bow maker, you can just tie a bow like you tie your shoes. I like to use this one though. It works pretty well for me. My husband made it. I find that using the bow maker is a lot easier for me than trying to tie a neat bow with just my hands. So I went in and I took some glue and I glued the bow to the gobble gobble tag, as you can see here, and then I went and glued the gobble gobble tag to the front of the turkey. It's really starting to come together now. This is going to be so cute. Let's put the beak and the wattle on. It is a wattle, right? Next, we're going to add those cute little feet. Put a little glue on the back side. The glue that I am using is sort of like a super glue. I really like this brand. I'll also give you the link to that if you'd like it as well. It sets up really fast, but you do want to be careful not to get it on your fingers because it sticks. Next, we're going to do the Give Thanks banner, and I'm going to be using Aleene's Tacky Glue for this one. The way that I do this is I put a little bit of glue on the back of the letter. It's always more glue than you need. So I tap it off on a paper towel before I actually place it on the other piece of wood so it doesn't ooze out as much. It does happen still occasionally, but I'll go back in with a Q-tip and clean that up. But mostly I don't worry too much about it because the glue does dry nice and clear. So the next thing that we're going to do is to glue the banner to the front of the turkey. You're just going to center that just above his toes, like so. Now you're going to see that I'm going to put 3 dots of glue on the back of the turkey, and I'm putting these little discs that will come with your kit on there. That is to raise the turkey up so that the bow doesn't leave a bump on the back of your turkey, and it just gives it a little more dimension too. Now we're going to make a bow using a couple different kinds of ribbon that I cut to, I don't know, about 12 inches. I think I used sort of like a burlap, a black and white gingham, and I also used an orange and white gingham, and we're going to use some raffia also. So I cut them all to about 12 inches and then folded them in thirds. So there's the bottom layer, which is the widest ribbon. And then I'm going to put the next one, which is orange, also folded that into thirds and layered it on top. Kind of put them at an angle if you can, so that you get a nice kind of bow-like layer. There's the black. And the raffia, I left a little bit longer and just folded it a few times so that I wouldn't have to be cutting tons and tons of that. So I laid it right on the top there, and I took another piece of raffia that I had out to the side and tied it all together. First I brought it around to the front and tied it, and then you're going to see that I flip the bow over and tied a knot in the back also. Don't cut the tails on this if you can help it. We're going to use that to tie it to the hanger in just a few minutes. It's time to fluff out your bow and trim your raffia now. Just keep playing with it till it looks just like you want it to. That looks to be about the perfect size. What do you think? Next, I'm going to take some rusty wire that I have, and I don't know, I cut a piece that was maybe, 16 inches long and folded it in half and cut it from the roll. So you're going to fold that in half tightly, and the folded end you're going to push through one side of the holes where the hangers go at the top of the red turkey feather. Pull that through and twist it around your wire. Get that as tight as you can. I'm sure it's never going to fall off, but just, make it look nice and tight. Then I twisted the rest of the wire, and when I got to the ends, I put it through the back of the other side. And twist that again. Those ends are open and they are a little bit sharp, so you're going to see me grab my pliers and twist those that way. Be careful that the wires aren't facing backwards where they'll scratch your wall too. And just play that and get a nice hanger shape out of it. And we're going to take that bow and tie it right to the top, that side of the hanger. So what do you think? Is this adorable? I am having a class in Western Mass in October to make this if you're interested. If you'd like to make one at home, let me know and I can get you a wood kit sent out. Just send me a message either on Facebook or on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Come again soon.